Hey everybody, I'm Dave. Welcome back to the podcast. Today joining me is Dr. Kevin Thompson, somebody who I've known from many, many years ago, and we're reconnecting, so he's going to help us with better ways of working. Hey, Dr. Thompson, thanks for joining us today. Tell the folks about yourself.
It's a pleasure, Dave. Yes, well, let's see. I have a varied career. I started out in my career getting a PhD in physics from Princeton, and then embarked upon a life doing research for Lawrence Livermore Laboratory and NASA Ames Research Center. Did work on astrophysics and computational fluid dynamics. And eventually I left that world to go for a world that paid better, and I got into software engineering, which I did for a variety of companies for a number of years. And when I got tired of doing software development for a living, I got into software project management and was the PMO manager for a small company headquartered in Silicon Valley. It was there that I discovered the Agile world because we've been using the Waterfall process to develop software and it never worked. We got these beautiful plans that look great and convincing, and were completely meaningless.
Never happened. They never
Yeah, it
came
didn't
to
matter how
be.
many times we reprinted it, it still was wrong. So beautiful looking, not very good as a guideline. And I was one of the people who pioneered Scrum at the company and discovered that worked way better. We actually had plans that resembled reality, and we were able to get work done, and we could deal better with surprises, which always kept happening.
Mm-hmm.
Agile doesn't mean surprises don't happen. It just means you can deal better with them when they do.
Right.
So that was a big deal because we shipped the first successful product release at the company in many years, and they had kind of lost the ability to ship. We're starting a new product. I pioneered Scrum on the new product development. We actually got it out the door and off to customers, so that was a big deal.
And was this just software or was this software and hardware?
That was pure software at that point.
Okay.
The hardware came later for me. So after that, the company had layoffs and they hit some bad financial times, and I found myself with free time. So I got myself a PMI, PMP certification and Scrum Alliance, Certified Scrum Master, Certified Scrum Practitioner certification, all in the same month. It was a very busy month for me. And then got a job at C Prime, where I became the company's one and only Agile consultant. I was the consulting division, basically, for a while. And there I was at the company while it grew from one person doing consulting to dozens. I pioneered a lot of different things, created new training materials, variety of classes, Scrum, program management, project management, portfolio management, all with an Agile flavor, and crucially got involved in the hardware business. I was looking for the next big thing to do once I got Agile portfolio management wrapped up. And I'd always been thinking, people keep talking about using Scrum outside of the software world, but they never do it. So I thought, I'd like to do it. So where would it make sense to do it? Well, how about hardware development instead of software development? By an interesting coincidence, I was delivering my 5th annual symposium presentation to the local PMI chapter. And there was a gentleman there named John Carter who was giving a talk on Agile hardware engineering. So I buttonholed him. I said, "Hey, John, nice to meet you. My name is Kevin. I want to come to your talk. I want you to come to my talk. I want us to talk afterwards. What do you say?" So he said he was game. I went to his talk. He went to my talk. Afterward, I said, "I want to do some research on how to do Agile and hardware. You're a hardware engineer. You clearly know a great deal about that. How about we combine our expertises and launch a research project into how to actually build an Agile process for hardware engineering?" And he was game, so we did that. We spent about a year and a half altogether on the project. We looped in another fellow named Scott, and the three of us put together some questionnaires, put together some interviewee lists. We had like 20 companies to interview. We wanted to know what were they doing. And we got the results. And the answer was fascinating. They weren't doing very much at all. So it was kind of a dry well to dig after all that time and effort. But it certainly confirmed that the time was right because there wasn't any pre-existing lore in the field at the time. Even though there wasn't much to learn from the interviews, I learned a lot from my two partners. So I wrote my original paper on Agile processes for hardware development after picking their brains, and that really got us into the business. And that was the foundational paper. for everything I've done since then. So that was how Agile hardware got started.
And you also wrote this book, and if you're watching on the video, it's the solutions for agile governance in the enterprise, or SAGE. You can see I still have my Post-it notes, earmarked the pages, etc. So tell us about the book. Was this after the paper or before?
It was about 3 or 4 years after the paper. So by that time, I'd had a number of hardware consulting engagements under my belt, which has certainly gone well. I figured it was time to finally write all this stuff down, for a broader audience than my white papers were reaching from the website at C Prime. So I spent about 2 years writing, another year back and forth with the firm that was going to be doing the printing for it until it finally came out in early 2019. I have to say, it's quite rewarding to get a book coming out and actually able to see it and hold it in your hands. I highly recommend the experience.
Did it last year, and I'm doing it again this year.
Boy, so you know.
Yes. This
Yes,
is a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's rewarding, like you said.
it is rewarding. I'm glad to see you still have my book.
Yes. So that's, I think we met around 2019. Yeah, it was before COVID. So I think that was the year I was getting into Agile for hardware. My director at the time, through an MIT contact, mentioned your name. That's how we connected, and we were starting to implement, looking at how to do Agile for hardware, and that's how we connected. So yeah, I read the book. As I said, you could see all the Post-it notes. It was a big help to me. So thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm also glad to see you still have the Post-it notes.
Yeah, I do refer to it every once in a while. There's a lot of good stuff in here about, just how to operate in Scrum, but how to run the project, run the program from an Agile perspective. That's really, I think, forming Scrum teams, do the 3-5-3, et cetera. But then it's really when you have multiple Scrum teams and they're working on a hardware project or any sort of, even a software project, right? How do you do the communication, the coordination? How do you know the metrics are there? How do you know they're actually making a difference on the business, right?
So one of the things I liked about Scrum was the fact that it had metrics that actually worked. The burn down chart was very satisfying. The columnar layout for
Right.
task status, you could actually look at it at a glance, see where you were. I wasn't used to having metrics and visibility into things that actually worked back when I was in a waterfall world.
And if I remember correctly, and you trained some of our folks, and I was there, and I think, you advocated for story points, but then when it came to sprint planning, actually break those down into hours. Did I remember that correctly?
No, I never advocated for story points. They don't work in a hardware context.
Okay. Oh, in a hardware context. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I think they're oversold in general, even in software. To me, I see it as something of if you use story points, you advocate, you're kind of a member of the right club.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes a badge you can wear to show you're with the cool kids.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I've always about pragmatism. And over 10 years of training, I conducted an experiment in my Scrum classes, the software classes, that is, Scrum for software. I would teach both story points and effort-based units of man days or person days.
Okay.
And I would let the students choose whichever they wanted for their teams. And 95% of the time, they would choose the effort-based units, the ones with man days or person days. And they never had a problem. It worked perfectly well for them. Whereas the rare occasion that someone wanted story points, I would watch them thrash and try to figure out what a story point was. So my experience is diametrically opposite the received wisdom from the Scrum world.
And remind me again so teams would just talk about what the estimate for the effort was in person days and just run with that number?
Yeah. We'd use planning poker to come up with a number and then
Okay.
go with it. And then it worked out smoothly. That was what I
So
saw
we'd still
happen.
use the Fibonacci on the number of days or hours for the effort. Okay. So one point could equal 1 day in that scenario, right?
Yeah, it could. So that was my experience. Like I said, it kind of goes contrary to the received wisdom in the Scrum world, but it's what I observed, and the observations are real, so I'll stand by them.
Empiricism. There you go.
Yeah, it was an empirical process, right?
So what's going on these days?
Well,
What are you working
let's
on?
see. Yeah, I left C Prime in 2019. Company was going in direction X, and I wanted to go in direction Y. So it was kind of time to take my leave there. Took a few years off to do a variety of things in my life I needed to get done. And now I'm getting back into the consulting business as a freelancer. I'm in the middle of putting my new website together, which is also pretty exciting to see watching that come together. It'll be launched in probably under a month from now.
Okay, so we're recording this in March 2026, so it'll be April 2026.
Yeah, I expect it'll launch by the end of April. KevinThompsonPhD.com.
Okay, we'll put it in the description so folks can get to it.
It'll be nice. It'll have a variety of resources on there for people. We've got like 19 or so uploads that people can download, white papers, webinars, case studies, useful things.
And will you still do public training like you did previously, or just a consulting?
I will still do the training, yes.
Okay.
I'll offer consulting and training services. And I'll train software people and hardware people both. I'll do consulting for both.
What was the most, if you can say, what was the most interesting hardware project in Agile you've done?
Probably the very first one because it was new.
Mm.
So I could say this. I wrote up a case study on it. It was Thermo Fisher Scientific. They make biotech equipment, mass spectrometers, things like that. And it was just after I'd finished my white paper on Agile for hardware. So here's a chance to try it out. Remember, I went there talking to the woman who was going to be the liaison, and I introduced myself. I said I was a physicist specializing in Agile processes, because they had physicists all over the place. They were used to that. That would provide a bit more comfort. Then another interview, I was asked, "Have you done this before?" I said, "No, I haven't. I don't know anyone else who has either." So you're going to have a high risk tolerance before you go forward on this, because I can't promise you that it's going to work out. I think it will, but it'll be a first for me. And they went forward anyway, which, to their credit. And it was eerily smooth. It's like every prediction I made just sort of materialized.
So, and when talking to leaders about, hey, we want to go Agile, like how do you help leaders who are interested, but they don't know exactly what they're in for? How do you approach them, and how do you help to explain Agile?
Well, there has to be a pain of some sort they're experiencing that Agile can help with. If they're perfectly happy with the world, then there's nothing
Why would
I
they
can
call
say,
you?
really.
Right.
Yeah, right. So the pains are very similar across hardware and software. I have schedules that mean nothing. I get status reports that I can't understand.
Everything is green until it's red.
Yeah, we late discover that we're going to be late. Hardware is in some ways a bit worse because the problems are more expensive. We discover late that risks blew up in our face, and then we have to redo some circuit boards and machinery and things like that, which is a lot more expensive than redoing software.
Mm-hmm.
Or we have integration problems that just went south. We discovered this late in the process. Again, it's bad enough in software, but it's worse in hardware when you may have to rejigger a physical interface, and that costs money and time. So things like that are the kinds of things that an Agile process can help with, especially if you do things like early prototyping, which you should.
Mm-hmm.
You burn down your risks early, which you should. You should do all these things that are sensible. People will say, yes, of course, we know that, but then they don't actually do it. And in an Agile world, I think sometimes it's easier to do these things.
Right. Or then everybody wants everything all the time. And then the concept of prioritization, right? Helping leaders and teams to prioritize your work and order your backlog. And
Yeah. And that, by the way, is something that works radically differently in the software and hardware worlds.
okay. How
In
so?
the software world, you've got software, you've got a team or teams building your code. And, day in, day out, they're working on it. And let's say it doesn't go as fast as anybody wanted it to or expected it to. That's been known to happen. So back in the bad old days of the Waterfall world, the delivery date slips, and someone who is waiting patiently for the next release to get his feature in gets anxious because now it's going to be late. He says, well, can you get my feature in your delivery? Because it's going to be late anyway. It won't matter if it's a bit later. And so they say, yeah, sure, why not? And then it becomes later. And then someone else is now upset because his feature isn't going to get in. And you get this death spiral. Delivery date just keeps putting fish out farther and farther. In the extreme case, you can't deliver at all. And I've seen that happen. I've seen companies completely paralyzed, unable to ship anything. So there, the idea of we'll deliver and we'll ship on a cadence. Doesn't matter. It can be every day, every 3 months, whatever. Pick a time frame that works for your customers. But we'll just ship what we've got at that time. And any features didn't make it in, we can put into the next one. Everybody knows the schedule and they're happy with it. Yeah, maybe they like theirs sooner, but at least it's somewhat predictable. And the late delivery dates won't keep slipping. So that is good. Now in the hardware world, it's not really the same. You don't have you didn't finish your product on the delivery date, can you put this new feature in for me? Well, the scope is pretty much locked down for hardware devices way early on. They'll just decide to shove another circuit board in there after a while and build a new feature because you're going to be
Right.
late. So that death spiral tends not to occur. And the shipping on cadence doesn't make much sense. It's going to take what it takes to get the product out the door. In your release cycles, if you have more than one, you may have more than one because it's a convenient way to plan. It may not even be the same length. For example, you may have 3 release cycles, one for getting an operational prototype together where the device functions, but you'd never ship it looking like that. That's breadboarded and things like that. The second one where you build an operational prototype that's a manufacturing prototype. It's in your first attempt to make something you could build and ship, but it falls short because it always does. And the third one is the actual manufacturing prototype that will be built and shipped as is. You got 3 distinct product delivery cycles internally. The last one goes to the outside world, but they don't deliver on a cadence either. They take as long as they take. So very different worlds.
Yeah, very interesting. And also in the hardware, I find there's more requirements in the sense of like these are the characteristics, attributes, whatever we want the product to do. Where in software, it's more about understanding, the user and the platform. There seems to be a lot more. I don't want to use the word clarity. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, but it's kind of different how requirements are gathered in the start off process, right? With getting a project going in Agile and between software and hardware.
It is different. One of the big dynamics is economics. The cost of
Hmm.
change is higher in hardware development than software development. So you can't afford to be as loosey-goosey in the hardware world as you can in the software world. In the software world, you can delay your decisions often substantially. In the hardware world, you have to nail down a lot of things fairly early on,
Right.
which
Right. And
means you
then
have to be good at getting some of the requirements spec'd out early on, and then you have to live with them for the better or for worse.
Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to share or plug besides the website coming?
No, I think there's nothing else for me to plug. As I say, I'll be available for consulting and training work
Okay,
starting probably May-ish, and
May
looking forward to getting back
2026.
into the field.
All right, great. Well, hey, I appreciate. I'm glad to reconnect. Thank you for the time today. And folks, what do you think? Leave comments. And again, there's the book. Put a link to that in the description and the website that's coming. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Thank you, Dave.